and just to open up my channel. So, so I can go live here. So I just want to welcome everybody. And let's get down here. Nice to have everybody that's going to be coming on today. Slowly, we shall see you come on one at a time. Folks, thank you very much. Listen, I have an interesting friend that's coming on today. But before I go ahead and before I bring my friend on, I just want to say welcome. Welcome to Maori Chair TV. Now, Maori Chair TV, Maori are indigenous people of New Zealand. And I just started this program just out of the blue. And like I said, Maoris are indigenous people of New Zealand. And the word chair, it's a slang. It's a crack up slang. It's a funny slang. And we say things like, chair, bro. It's a nice car you're driving. Or chair, bro. That's a nice house you live in. So it's pretty well slang. So if you ever come across any Kiwis, especially any Maori bros, you say chair, you know. So, yeah. So, the thing is that it's a slang. It's a crack up slang. And TV is, a lot of people think it's television, but it's actually talking voices, and it's what this show is all about today on Maori Chair TV. Is talking voices. It's where we talk to people, or where I talk to people. I talk to Kiwis that are living abroad, Kiwis that live around the world. What are they doing? Where they're from? What they do? And all this and that kind of stuff today. And I have, my friend that I'm going to bring on in a few minutes. He's originally from Kawarau, but he's living in the States, in Michigan. And I have been friends with Mr. Jonathan Carr for quite some time, because when I go down to Michigan to the hanging, Jonathan was one of the gentlemen that played a major role down there with the Hangies, doing the hanging with Graham and Michelle and Bruce and the crew down there. So it was always fun to go down to Michigan. I just want to say, hey, my friend Dave Jeffs is on. Hey, Dave. Now, Dave is not a Kiwi guy. He's from New Zealand. He's from a place called Whangamata. That's up around Tauranga area, I believe. And Dave Jeffs has a radio station down in Richmond, Virginia. And it's called KLA Talks 2020. KLA, Kiwis living abroad. And he is from a place called Whangamata, but he lives in Richmond, Virginia. So good to have you on, Dave. Thanks, buddy. Now, I've got about a minute, and I'm going to bring up my friend, and we're going to have a chat. Now, this guy is my friend. Jonathan is actually a funny guy. He's got some great stories. He's gonna tell us some great stories, things that he's been through, his journey, his experience, and of course, married now, lives in Michigan to his wonderful wife Amy and his two beautiful children, and he'll talk to you about that later on. So, I guess, folks, I'd like to say a few things. I just want to thank everybody that tuned into this. Was tuning in, because there's different time zones. In New Zealand, it's 7 o'clock in the morning or 8 o'clock in the morning. And people around the world be tuning in. I know I've got friends on different channels. I have different channels here. I've got my Facebook channel going, and I have my YouTube channel going, and I have my Maori Chair TV going on different channels. So wherever they're going to be watching around the world, thank you for coming on and supporting the channels. So, folks, you know what? Without further ado, I'd like to bring up right now to join me up on the screen, my friend, my good friend, Mr. Jonathan Carr. And here he goes, folks. He's coming up. There we go. Jonathan, how you doing, brother?
Good, bro. Tēnā koutou.
Tēnā koutou, bro. Tēnā koutou katoa, bro.
Ka pai.
Nice to have you on Maori Chair TV, bro. Thank you for coming on.
No, thank you for having me. Thank you.
Thank you, bro. Awesome. Now, we've got a lot to talk about, and I know you've got a lot to share because I was, reading up on some stuff about you, bro. All the good stuff. It's all about the good stuff, yeah.
Yeah.
And
nothing bad ever happens.
Yeah, there's nothing bad. It's all the good stuff. The bad stuff might slip in later on during the conversation here. We'll see,
Oh yeah.
But
Sure.
yeah. But no, it's some great stuff for your journey and experience. And I'm just going to turn off my background music here so we can have a good chat here. So, Jonathan, born in Turangi.
Yep. Born in the Turangi Maternity Annex. And I think it was like a little one-room building in 1968.
Wow. In 68, Yeah.
Yeah.
And you also, now you moved close to me, I think, in the Taranaki area, New Plymouth, because that's where your sister was. That's where your sister was born, right?
Yeah, we were in New Plymouth for a year or so. She was born in New Plymouth, and then we moved over to Kawerau. My dad got a job at Tasman Pulp and Paper Company at the mill there. So,
and how long were you there for? You said about a year?
New Plymouth for about a year or so. I don't remember, man. I was like this big.
Yeah.
I was a little fella. And then we headed over to Kawerau.
Yeah, so that's where you pretty well grew up there and everything there, right?
Yeah,
in Kawerau, yeah. Now I didn't know there's a few things about you I didn't know. You're, I know rugby in New Zealand, they play rugby and cricket in New Zealand, but there's a lot of other things that you were good at too that I was reading. Life saving.
I started life saving because I was a swimmer. I started swimming for Kawerau Club when I was 4 on the team, but 5 years old I could swim competitively. Yeah. And I started life saving at the age of 7. With the RLSS, you can get your intermediate star, I think it is, and then your bronze cross, bronze medallion. And so at 7 years old, I started doing life saving, and used to go to Wahaupi with the surf life savers over there, and do some stuff. But yeah, I actually lifeguarded. I still hold a current lifeguarding certification. And over here in the States, you got to get it every 2 years.
Right.
With American Red Cross. So I've been certified as a lifeguard now for 46 years.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, that's impressive, my friend. That's fantastic. Great. Well, I always thought the guys that come from Kawerau are good swimmers. So,
we're good in the forestry.
They're good in the forestry. It's good in the forest. Yeah, maybe we can talk about that too later. You can talk to me about that, Yeah. You also went to Auckland Grammar School, right?
Yeah.
The high school, starting sort of finishing in 1986. And I just crossed off, I just highlighted something here. And I was kind of intrigued to find out what happened, John. It had expelled. Talk to me, bro.
So
I know you a little bit, right? I know you.
But my senior year of high school wasn't the greatest.
Okay.
So I got into a little bit of trouble, and I ended up getting expelled I was in the boarding hostel, so I was in the hostel from 82, and in 86 I got expelled from the hostel. I got suspended from the school. But they let me finish. It was a little incident involving some girls from Eggs and some alcohol, and that's what I'm going to say about that. And wasn't the greatest situation for any of us. Can probably look back now and laugh a little bit. But at the time, it wasn't fun. But so I actually finished my senior year of high school living in a room at the back of a garage off of Parnell Rise at an old folks.
It's a cheap room.
a real cheap room. It was a rest home, and I got cheap board because I used to cook and clean and look after the old people.
Right, right.
So I finished senior my high school with no legal guardian officially because I didn't live at home.
How old were you then? How old were you?
17.
17. Wow, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I went away to school when I was 13. Parents divorced when I was 14.
Right, right.
And that was it. So I basically got a piece of paper at the end of high school that said, "Thanks for coming. Don't come back."
That's funny, man. I also read a piece on here that it had a house, most haunted house.
That was the rest home I
Was
lived
that
in.
true, or was just a story, bro?
No, it was true. There was a book. My landlady was Chinese. My landlord was Irish. They were married. I don't know the background on that, but it was a weird situation. But he had a book on Auckland's most haunted houses, and our the house there was in it, and it was built by this guy. It was 100 and something years old. His daughter had died in the house, and her ghost was seen regularly in the house. Wow. And there was one day it was really hot out, and this lady moved in. Her name was Elizabeth, and she was she'd just come out of an institute, so she was on all sorts of medication and that.
Right.
And I was helping move her into this front room, and I couldn't go into the room. As soon as I stepped through the door, it was ice cold and just really oppressive. Wow. My landlady's like, "What's wrong?" And I said, I can't go in the room. It's freezing. I don't feel right." And she's like, "Okay, not a problem." And Elizabeth, because of the meds she was on, used to walk the hallway at night. And we had a door in the living room to the hallway, had a glass window. And she would come up to the window and put her face on the window like this and then lean back. It was really spooky. So part of what I did was I'd stay up till midnight to make sure that, none of the residents needed help with anything. And at midnight I could go to bed. And I'm sitting there watching TV one night. I got the lights out because there were rooms off of the living room space and you don't want to disturb anyone. And Elizabeth was walking the hall and put her face up to the window a couple of times. And I'm just sitting there. And then I seen a face come up to the window, and I thought it was Elizabeth, but it didn't stop. And it came right through the window, and this whole woman came through the door and went through the wall into the kitchen area. And about 2 minutes later, she came back through the wall, back through the door, and left. And I got up and I took off. And the next day, I told my landlady about it, and she opened the book. And there was a picture of this guy's daughter who was, like 18 when she died. She had influenza or something. She died. I'm like, that's the girl I saw last night in the house. Wow. And she goes, yeah, she visits regular. She's really, real nice lady. You say hello next time. And I'm just like, I don't think so.
Oh, jeez. Wow. That's an amazing story, man. Damn. So, now let's move on to something a little bit more. You see, I'm reading something here. Basketball won a pennant with the B team, and water polo. I could see you as a water polo guy, man. You know, with that white cap on.
Yeah, the white cap and the little Speedo.
Yeah. Yeah, I could see you with that. Yeah.
I played rugby, basketball, and water polo at Grammar, and I ended up playing water polo after I left high school too for a club. Oh. So I got a couple of gold medals and a bronze medal in national competition. In water polo.
Yeah. Wow, man, good on you, bro. Good on you. And what else here they got here? What's this? I did a tricky spinal rescue at the lake near Tokoroa.
Yeah, just outside of Tokoroa in 87. 87 was a funny year for me. Lot of things happened in 87. It was a very busy year. But I had a friend, my best mate actually at the time, his cousin was over from England visiting for a few weeks. And he was getting ready to go back to England. And he told us, I really wish I could stay here a little bit longer and, maybe meet some Kiwi girls and this and that and the other thing.
Yeah.
And we went swimming out. I can't remember the name of the lake. It's about 20 minutes out of Tokoroa, in the bush. And there was a dock there, and it was a shallow water. and I dove off, and my buddy dove off, and then his cousin did a pike dive and broke his neck in two places,
Jeez.
hit the bottom. So I got to him first, and I'd been trained, so
Yeah.
to speak.
Yeah.
Rolled him over, realized he was paralyzed. Saw the look in his eyes, which it's a horrible thing to look into somebody's eyes when they're paralyzed.
Yes.
And he was trying to cough. He couldn't breathe. So I actually had to put my fingers down his throat, pull on his tongue, and make him cough water out and everything. Got him to the bank, and this lake, there's no even land going up to it. So we were in this lake mud, and by this stage, people realized something's wrong, and they started coming to help. We had a towel under him for a sling. There was a nurse there with her family and a doctor that was there with a school camp. They showed up, and they introduced themselves, and I said, well, I'm a lifeguard. So they're like, well, you got the head. What do you need? I'm like, I need a backboard because we're not moving him without a board.
Yeah.
There was an old boathouse down the lake, and these guys took off down there. They ripped the weatherboard off the side of the building and brought it back, and we put that
Used
underneath
it. Yeah.
as a backboard. And the mud that I was in was really sticky, so to help support his neck, I packed it with mud. And then we had enough people. We lifted him up, and we got him lifted out, and they'd already called for an ambulance. A guy in a boat called for an ambulance, and that came, and he's like, I can't take him out because the road's too bumpy, will kill him. So they called for the helicopter, flew in, and they airlifted him to Waikato Hospital. And the next day we were going through the hospital to see him and meet up with my buddy's parents, and I was running a little bit late and driving a little bit fast, and I got pulled over by the police. And,
No kidding.
I was doing just a little bit over 100 miles an hour in the old HQ Belmont Holden I had at the time. With
Oh, you had a Holden, bro.
Oh yeah, Holden driver. So this cop's like, where you going in such a hurry? And I said, well, Waikato Hospital, sir. And he said, don't mess with me, because that's where you're going to end up if you don't slow down. I said, no, seriously, my buddy's cousin broke his neck yesterday, and we're going to see him. He goes, were you guys there? We're like, yeah. And he goes, do you know who rescued him? And guys that are with me, they point at me, and he was like, you rescued him? I said, yes, sir. He said, you've been talked about all over the radio. The helicopter pilot said he's been doing it for 30 years. He'd never seen anyone use mud to stabilize a neck before. And he says, I'll tell you what, I'm not giving you a ticket. You slow down because there's a checkpoint around the corner, down the bottom of that hill. He said, once you're through that checkpoint, gun it. And good luck getting to Hamilton. So we shot through, and Adrian, like I said, he broke 2 vertebrae in his neck.
Wow.
But, fortunately, didn't sever the spinal cord. They attributed that mainly to the rescue. I think.
How is he today?
He can walk. Last I knew, he was walking still with a cane, and he has use of his arms and everything. He was actually in a documentary on the BBC on spinal injuries, and then that's how actually the Royal Life Saving Society got a hold of me through the BBC documentary. And I got nominated for the Kingsland Memorial Medal for the most meritorious rescue of the year. And I came runner-up. I don't know if you remember that year. There was a helicopter crash with, I think it was Paul Holmes, the news guy. And this fellow rode his boat out to the sandbar and rescued him. And he actually won. He won the medal that year.
Wow!
And I came runner-up with that.
Jeez, man. Now I know that you. You're one of these guys that'll help anybody do anything, anytime, anywhere. And I just want to talk to you about this 11 feet underground up a concrete pipe fed to a chlorine
ammonia tank.
Yeah. So what's that all about? Talk to me about that one.
Again, that was 1987. Great year. There was an earthquake in Edgecombe in '87, and it did a lot of damage, especially in Kawerau, where I grew up.
Yeah.
And at the time, I'd graduated high school up there in Auckland, and I was working as a storeman packer in a pharmaceutical warehouse in Auckland when the earthquake hit. And I had a buddy that was working for this company, and they needed people real quick. It was a structural concrete bonding company using epoxy resins. So he told his boss about me, and his boss calls me up and he said, hey, we're looking for workers for this earthquake to do repair work in the concrete. I'm wondering if you're interested. I'm like, well, I got a job. And he said, well, how much do you make? I said, about $180 a week. He goes, I guarantee you $1,000 a week after tax. I said, where do I sign? So long story short, I ended up at 18 years old, or 17 years old, 17, working back down in Colorado, living at Pinelands, which used to be Butts. It was a motor hotel.
Yeah.
And doing structural repair work in Tasman and Caxton and surrounding areas, bridge work and that, doing concrete repair. My first responsibility when I got down there, because I was the only person in our crew who'd actually been in an earthquake.
Right.
I had to crawl into buildings and make sure they were structurally sound for the inspectors to go through and decide what was getting repaired and what was getting replaced. And I used to have to crawl in and map out where things had fallen, where beams were hanging, electrical was hanging. So I in quite a few of the areas, I was first person into these buildings to see the damage that had been done.
I can see here, bro, 11 feet underground.
Well, that one. So there was a chlorine ammonia tank, and that's a really lethal gas.
Yeah, that's dangerous, eh?
They discovered there was a crack in a feed line, a concrete feed pipe to it.
Mm.
And I was the only one that the mask, we had to wear a full face mask. I was the only one that fit properly. You had to get a full seal and everything. And I'd done all the safety work on it already. So I went down into this tank, climbed down, and the feed line's about 11 feet down.
Yeah.
And I had to crawl up it. I was probably about 20, 30 feet up this pipe. My job was to seal the crack on the inside, so that when they were digging down to it, when they got to it, they could put a sleeve on it without any fear of any gas escaping and poisoning anybody, killing them. Right. So I had a laborer with me, and I had a safety officer monitoring my oxygen because I was on a long line down there, and there was a little tremor, and I was like, oh, wow. Great. They were still expecting a big one back then. They didn't know what was, because every day, hundreds of aftershocks. Yeah. And this was months after the big one had hit there. And I'm in this pipe, and there was a 4.5 on the Richter scale aftershock. And I tell you what, man, I bounced around in there. I came out, and the tank that I'd gone into was all cracked. I guess the way earthquakes work, there's different ways that they pull on the ground. And the big one did nothing, but this little one had actually cracked the tank. So I came out, and it was very surreal. Yeah. It was very silent. There'd been logs on a conveyor belt overhead with about a 3-foot wall. These full-size pine trees had jumped over and had come down and landed where my two guys had been. So they took off running, and I came out of this hole, and my foreman says, well, you need to go back down and see how bad it is. So I'm like, all right. So I went back down, and I crawled up the pipe again, and I came back out, and I said, yeah, I quit. And he's like, what do you mean? Because the pipe's gone. So the pipe I was actually working in, it had collapsed back a little bit, and I'm like, you got to, the whole thing has to be replaced. But I did get to see an earthquake from up on what's called the Digester, which is it's like about a 7-story high building, and
you saw the waves, right?
There was an earthquake, and it was like somebody was flapping a blanket, all the way across the Rangitaiki Plains out towards Whakatane and Hopi Beach, and all the way out to the ocean. You could just watch the ground rolling, and we were on this building going like this, and we got done, and I had two guys up there with me, and they looked at me and went, you got to finish on your own, and they ran down the stairs. I was like, all right, well, I'll just carry on.
Yeah, really, man. Wow. So now, how did you decide that you were going to leave New Zealand? Now we're going to talk about leaving New Zealand, coming overseas. Where did you? Because your parents were originally from England.
Yeah,
England, right?
Yep.
Yeah. And I'm sure you wanted to go and visit where they come from and everything. Is that the first place you went to when you left New Zealand? Or did you? Where was the first place you went to?
Well, they took my sister and I. My parents took us when I was 10.
Right.
So we came to California, England, Singapore, and then when I decided to leave New Zealand, it was to go find out where my heritage lay in, because I grew up without blood relatives, but growing
Right.
up in Kawarau, I had a massive whānau. I had uncles and aunties and grandparents, and I had a lot of people that would slap me when I stepped out of line, and then go tell my dad
You
about it. He'd
you
take
were
his belt
right.
off.
Yeah, you were right in the middle there of the Maori culture, bro.
Oh yeah.
Right up in that area there. You know.
Yep.
Uh,
I was very privileged. I really was.
you embraced it, eh, bro?
Yeah, I got an understanding of Aotearoa, New Zealand,
Yeah,
long
man.
before most people did. And I was very, very fortunate. And I had some great teachers. But ultimately, yeah, I'd quit the job in Kawarau, and I was a printer, and I finished my apprenticeship as a printer. I've always been restless. I'd hitchhiked a lot, but I wanted to find where my heritage lay. But the easiest way to get to England, which was obviously my prime destination, was to work in America in summer camps. So like a lot of New Zealanders starting our big OE, our overseas experience there when we're young,
Yeah.
I worked in summer camps here in the States.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
I started off at a Jewish camp here in Michigan, Camp Tamarack. I got interviewed over the phone for that, which was a pretty cool interview. This lady's, she's telling me about the camp, and I was there as a lifeguard because I was all certified. And she said, "Well, I just want to let you know it's a Jewish camp." I said, "Okay." And she goes, "Well, do you have anything against Jews or Judaism or anything?" I said, "Well, I know one Jew, and he's a pretty nice fella, so I guess the rest of you guys are all right, right?"
Yeah.
And she was like, "What? You know one Jew?" And I'm like, "It's not like they walk around with signs,
Right.
"Hey, I'm
Right.
Jewish."
Right. Yeah.
So that was it. So I came over here and worked in a Jewish camp, and then
And you got the job, and
yep. And then I
wow.
went after that summer. I went upstate New York in the Catskills, and I worked at a Christian camp. I'm a spiritualist, so I got my fill of religion there, and in one summer it was pretty awesome. And then I got to travel on to England.
So you went to Yorkshire. Was it Yorkshire?
Yorkshire. That's
Yeah.
my parents are from Yorkshire, so that's where I based myself in England.
And how long were you there for?
Through that fall, winter, and into the spring of the following year.
At least a couple of years.
No, just within that 1 year.
Oh, within that 1 year. So,
Yeah,
So what did you do over there?
I started off. I lived with my uncle and aunt. My uncle owned a construction company.
Oh, okay.
So I was a builder's laborer, truck driver for him in the day, and at night I was a bartender. And on the weekends I tended bar. And I got to work all over Yorkshire doing construction and then bartending. And then I went to Germany for a little while, and ended up back in England, and decided to change of scenery basically. And I applied for a pub job up in North Yorkshire, up in the Yorkshire Dales, in the middle of nowhere. And unfortunately, we drove up there. There was a girl I was dating at the time. Her and I went up, and the jobs that we were going to be taking, the people decided that they weren't quitting because the one guy was supposed to be going to university but didn't get in. So the pub owner felt bad for us. He gave us lunch, a couple of pints of beer, and then he called down to this sheep farm. And they also had a bed and breakfast that they did. And he asked if they needed a farm laborer and a girl for bed and breakfast. And the lady there says, "Yeah, send them down." So we went down to the sheep farm and met with Liz, the farmer's wife there. And then she was talking about they had a broken window. And I used to work summer holidays in Colorado with the glass company. So I'm like, "Well, I can fix your window." And I was up on the second floor of this old stone building, and I got up there, I crawled out onto the sill, and I fixed the window. And as I'm fixing it, Stuart, the farmer, came up. And he just looked up at me and didn't say a word, opened the door and yelled out to his wife. He goes, "Hey, there's somebody on the window ledge fixing the window. Who is it?" And she goes, "Well, if you like him, that's your new farm laborer." So he walked back out, he looked up and he said, "Hey, where are you from?" I said, "New Zealand." He goes, "You're hired." And he walked back in the house, and now that was it. So I ended up getting a job on the largest sheep farm in North England.
Well, amazing, bro.
Because I came from New Zealand.
No, well, talking about you came from New Zealand. Now, there's a lot of people that around the world that from New Zealand that's got jobs and all over the world, and New Zealand is very well respected. And I've found that out through friends. When you talk to people and they say, "Oh, where are you from?" I said, "Oh, I'm from New Zealand." "Oh, New Zealand. Oh, they're great people. They're funny people. They're this, they're that. Or do you know how to do the haka? Or do you know the All Blacks?" There's two things they know: the haka and All Blacks. But New Zealand is very well respected around the world. And I have a lot of friends, as you know, Jonathan. I've got a lot of friends. I don't have guests on my shows. I have friends all over the world, and I hear it from them all the time. Saying, "Well, man, New Zealand is amazing. I got to go there." And I try and tell them, "Hey, you got to go. Don't just say you got to go. Go there." So yeah, man. Now after England, England. When you were in England, you did the tour. You see where your mom and dad come from, and your uncles and aunts. You still got family there today?
Yeah. I got family in England, Australia, and then obviously back in New Zealand. Got mum and
Right.
dad.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So from England, and you came back to the States, right? Or did you go back to New Zealand?
No, I came back to the States. I actually, like I said, I went to Germany. That was going to be my grand tour of Europe, and I ran
Right.
out of money. Ran out of money in Germany
Yeah.
after 2 days,
Wow.
and I couldn't get out of the country because of the ticket I had.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I was shoplifting for food and sleeping on floors and bus stations. I had a great time.
Yeah.
I never went hungry or anything. I was always.
Oh,
I
I'm
always went
sure.
shopping.
You were
Um,
trained. You were trained, remember?
yeah, but
You got some
yeah.
good
So
training.
it
Yeah.
was funny. I was on the sheep farm. We finished up lambing season. Things were winding down,
Yeah.
uh, and I wasn't sure what I was going to do. And I got a phone call because I'd left phone numbers. Back then, back in the day, you just left your phone number with wherever you were at.
Yeah. That's correct.
This is
Yeah.
where I'm going to be. And I got a phone number from the summer camp here in Michigan.
Mm.
They were closing down, and they were bringing back staff by invite only. So they asked if I would consider coming back and working. At the time that they closed Tamarack, it was the second oldest working summer camp in the United States. They had
Mhm.
a long history. It was pretty cool. So I had nothing else to do at that point. So I said, "Yeah, you know what? I'll come back and I'll do another summer in the States." And then my plan was to finish that summer and then go into Canada, go west across Canada, back to Europe, back to England, then get enough money to go south from England through Asia, Australia, and back to New Zealand.
Wow.
That was in 1993, and
Mm.
I didn't do that.
Yeah. Wow. It's amazing, my friend. Hey, Jonathan, I just want to say hi to a couple of people that's on here today.
Yeah.
Doug from Windsor is on, and then Tiaka from Buffalo. And I see Mark's on, and then Ross is on, and Maggie's from Florida. Um, Maggie Kirk, yes, she's from Florida. And Michelle Drummond from Michigan. Michelle is just across the border from on the American side, Canada. She's on the border there. That's Michelle Drummond. Hi, Michelle. And yeah, and then we got Rose, and I know there's a few other people watching today too. I can just scroll down here and just yeah, and of course your wife is watching.
Oh,
Can I
yeah.
tell you that your wife is watching, Amy?
Yeah.
So now this is where it gets to. Before I want to show pictures because I want to show some pictures and all that too. Maybe a couple of videos. But now this is where we get, or this is where you get to meet your wife, Amy,
Yeah.
in Michigan, I believe. Right? You met her in Michigan
Yep.
in 1993. Because you were just talking about 1993 there. So
Yeah.
I just thought I'd throw this in.
92, 93. Yeah, I came back in 92.
Yeah.
It was a long time ago, man. I got that craft disease. Um, but yeah, so I finished the summer camp and decided to, like I said, I had these big plans of traveling, but I I didn't have a lot of money. So when I came back into the States, I had
Yeah.
$24 cash in my pocket and $200 in traveler's checks, and I had a backpack and a guitar. And even though I got paid to work, I drank, I think, a lot.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
um,
Now,
yeah.
now I just want to tell the folks out there. I want to tell the folks out there that I'm going to be showing some pictures later of Jonathan and his wife, and he's going to tell you a couple of stories about it. So I just want to just let everybody know that don't go away. If you have to go and get popcorn or drink, go and get it now because it's an interesting story we got coming, and I tell you, man, it's funny. So sorry, John. Carry on what you were going to say, my friend.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, we met. So I had to get another job after camp, and I ended up working at the JCC, the Jewish Community Center in West Bloomfield, as a lifeguard. And Amy was a nursery teacher there, and they used to bring kids to the pool to go swimming. And we met at the pool, and she brought kids swimming. And I told her if she came into my pool, she had to smile because, and that was my pickup line, and it worked.
I was going to say, wow, that's a pickup line, bro.
It was you know what? It was nothing like the usual stuff, that's for sure. In fact, but I proposed.
She fell for it, though.
She fell. Done. Actually, I don't think she knew what I was saying. But I did the best Kiwi proposal ever. We were on the phone. I was at the pool. I was lifeguarding, and I was bored, right. So I called down to her room on the phone, and we were talking. And I said, "Hey, you know this marriage thing? You want to give it a try?" And that was our proposal. She hung up the phone, and she turned to her coworker, and her coworker said, "What's wrong?" She goes, I think I just got engaged, but I'm not sure."
Just got engaged Kiwi style.
Yeah, that was it. But then I did ask her dad and everything. I went down on one knee.
Right.
Still worked.
Yeah. So what are we gonna do here? We're gonna. I want to bring up. I want to bring up a picture here, and let me see with this one here. This is the one of you and your wife, and your son and your daughter.
Yep.
That's your family, man.
That's Jenna and Dylan. That was at one of Jenna's best friend's wedding. That was just last year. Yeah, we don't get too many family photos, so that was a good one. Very proud of both my kids. They are doing wonderful with their lives. Couldn't ask for anything better.
So now Dylan plays rugby, or he plays the American football, correct? Or he plays both?
Well, he did. He played football up until high school, and he went to Lakeland High School. Mm-hmm. And then high school football, he got kind of turned off. He was not happy at all, and he wanted to quit. And so I played rugby, obviously, in New Zealand. I played in England. And I played a little bit for Detroit Tradesmen Old Boys over here. So I knew a couple of the Detroit Tradesmen that coached at Howell High School. And I got a hold of them, and I said, well, can he play at Howell even though he goes to Lakeland? And they said, yeah. So he got to play rugby, and I got to watch my son play one of my favorite sports, something I never thought I'd do. And not only did he play it, but his second year, they won the Michigan State high school championship for rugby.
Yeah, I saw the picture. I think you put a picture up in the trophy or something. They had a trophy or something, right?
Yeah, I was helping coach. I helped coach football over here for a long time, and it was just when I got to the rugby, I dropped him off, and the guy, like I said, I knew the boys, so they're like, "Where are you going?" And I'm like, "What?" And they're like, "You're going to stay and coach, right?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure." So I did. So. Unfortunately, his senior year was the COVID year, and everything got canceled. But it was great. It was a great moment.
Yeah. Well, I just have to show off this picture here because this one here. This is when you came down to Toronto. You and Graham.
Yep.
You and Graham came to Toronto, right?
That
So
was the bushfire thing.
that's right, for the Australian bushfire. So
Mhm.
let me just go out of the screen here a little bit because I want to show off you and me together. So
Yeah, that was yeah. I was rocking the hunting beard and the Chiefs jersey. That was yeah. That was actually before they were playing good again.
yeah, so that's a great picture, man. I really like that one. That's nice. That's in the kitchen upstairs here. So
Yep.
yeah, that was pretty awesome, man. But I've got a couple of more pictures I want to show. And this one here, well, this is you. I think this is down in Michigan, right, Jonathan?
Yep.
That's in
Yeah.
Michigan.
That's at the Hungy at Graham's house.
Yeah, you're just having a slight little break there.
I staying hydrated.
Yeah, yeah.
It's very
But
important.
that's a, is that water? Is that water funny? That looks a funny color though. That water. Eh?
Yeah, Flint water.
The Flint water. Oh, okay. Flint water. That's about the right color too, eh?
Yeah, about that. Yeah, yeah.
So yeah. And what else here? We got. This. I gotta show this one. Here you go. Here's the boys here. This is when we would do the haka at the Hangi down in Michigan, at Graham's place. So all the boys would get together and do the haka. So here, I'll boost it up a little bit for you.
Yep, that was one of the first hakas we did when you guys had come down, and everybody had their shirts off. Except, Dino, we can't tell that you've got your shirt off, but
Yeah, I was a little bit late getting the memo, bro.
yeah,
I was a little bit late. You guys had already started.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Oh,
fair
that
enough.
was that was hilarious. That was funny, man. That was great. That was a great time. Going down to the Hangis is great, man. So this one here, I think this is back in your younger days, man. This has got to be when you were what, 17, 18?
Oh no, actually, that was the first year I came over here to the States. That was my first summer traveling through. So that was what 1991. So yeah, I was 22 maybe.
Yeah, I should have known that better, but with the cars in the background, they don't have those ones in New Zealand yet. Well, at that
No,
time,
no.
right? So I should have known it was in the States.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah,
A young
That was-
guy, man.
yeah. That was
Is
a
that-
lifetime ago.
Yeah. Is that when Amy saw you for the first time?
No, it was like that was a year or so before she saw me for the first time. But yeah, I was still pretty good looking, almost.
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 Almost. Oh, yeah, gee. So tell me about this one here, buddy.
Oh, all right. So yeah, that was the sheep farm in North England. That was actually in Yorkenthwaite is where it was called. And part of my job, after we would get up at like 5:30 in the morning and go out and do all the lambing pens and everything like that. Go in, and before I could have breakfast, part of my job was to feed all of the orphan lambs. And so actually the big one that you see with her back to you, that was Cheeky. The little one in front of her was Tinkerbell. And I don't know who. I started naming them all just because it was a dumb thing to do, because if they got sick and died, it was very emotional. But yeah, that was part of the duties of the farmhand was to hand feed all of the orphans.
Yeah.
So we could get them either strong enough to be out in the field by themselves, or, and as bad as it sounds, we'd wait for a stillborn, and we'd skin the stillborn and put the skin of the stillborn lamb on one of the lambs I was hand rearing and give it to the mother, and the mother would then hopefully start feeding
Right,
it.
right. Yeah.
And the skin would rot and fall off in the field.
Where's this picture, Jonathan?
That's Yorkenthwaite. So the house in the very foreground was the one that I was living in. It was built in the 1800s, I believe. It was all stone. There were 3 houses in that valley. Only 2 of them were occupied. The other one wasn't a farmer, and then there was us. And that's looking down actually from. There were 2 kilns Viking kilns that were carved out of the hillside, and we were up by those kilns, looking back on the thing. The Vikings populated the area. There was a lot of caves, a lot of holes. There was a druid circle down in there, which was really, really awesome. Very spiritual place there. And then there was also, behind where that photo was taken, there is a Viking tower for
Really?
a lookout tower, and there's a big iron ring on the top of it. And what would happen was, the 70s were good to me. Not so much my hairdresser, but
Chair, bro.
yeah.
Oh, there's that word again. Chair. See, it keeps on coming out.
Yeah, that was the era of Paisley. I had the wing collar, the Paisley shirt.
Yeah.
I had Paisley pajamas, Paisley.
Yeah, the long collar. Yeah.
Yeah. I think back when wallpaper was still put on the walls and not paint.
What about this one, bro?
Oh, that's me. I don't know if that's New Plymouth or Kawerau, and that is a Wakefield Trinity Rugby League uniform that my grandmother had
Wow.
sent. Yeah,
Had the socks to go with it too, eh?
matching. Yeah, the whole matching.
Yeah, man. Nice. What about this one, bro? You and your sister.
That's me and my sister Helena. Yeah.
Wow, bro. Wait, look at that.
Yep. She lives in Whakatane.
Yeah, see?
so-
You know how many ladies out there want to squeeze your cheeks? And what about this one, bro? You look like the guy from what's that guy from Australia?
Oh, actually, that's my Stevie Ray Vaughan look right there.
Crocodile Dundee. Stevie Ray
Crocodile-
Vaughan, yeah.
Stevie
Yeah,
Ray
Crocodile Dundee.
So that photo, Dino, is
Yeah.
that is one of the best places in New Zealand that you could ever possibly visit. It's very little known area in central North Island called Meringa. So behind me, off to the right down, you'll see there's a little patchy area. It's the site of an old marae. And it's a very spiritual marae, and it's in the shape of a cross. It was attacked and burnt down a couple of times. The cross is still there. There's actually a burial mound behind it. When the Maori first came over, there was a tribe that was predominantly run by females, and that's where they were based. So the leaders were female.
Wow. Amazing, man.
It is one of the most awesome places in the country. Again, 87 was, I lost my finger in an accident in 87, and I went through some very dark periods.
Right.
I had friends that we'd been going there for a little while, and that was one of the first things they did was they loaded me up, and they're like, we got to get you down to Meringa. So we went down there and spent about a week basically just camping, meditating. There's nothing there. There's nothing in everything, if you know what I mean.
Wow.
All your questions were answered. So if I was to say anything, I would say ko putoaki taku maunga, ko meringa toku kapehu, which basically is Putuaki is my mountain, grew up in Colorado. Meringa is my compass. No matter where I am in the world, no matter what is bringing me up or down, Meringa grounds me every time.
Right.
It's an incredible place.
Right. This here, bro, I'm just going to go through some quick pictures because I want to get to the video for you. So this one here's in Michigan, I believe, right?
Yep. Yeah, that was one of the invitations. That's Graham and Bruce and I.
Nice, bro. Yeah, the Michigan hanging. We really enjoyed it there. That was fun going down there. This is you and Amy?
Oh, yeah.
I believe that's got to be in Michigan somewhere.
Yeah, that was when you guys all came down and we went to that little restaurant by the lake.
Oh, yes, that's right. Yeah. Yeah. No, that was pretty cool, man. And this one here, you and Graham
and Miriama.
Yeah. Wow. She's a great lady. And there's the boys here. Here, let me just back out of the screen here.
Nice. You got Tiaka and yourself and Gavin. All the boys on the ukes. And I'm just singing along. Probably not even the same song you fellas are playing, but that's all right, right? I was hydrating again. That's what I was doing.
With that Michigan water. Now, folks, for you people that are watching here, you got to look at this picture here, and he's going to tell you a story about it. This was something. This was an amazing. Oh, I love that pouch, by the way. You got a pouch there. Or is that your belt?
That's my fanny pack.
That's your fanny pack.
That
Go
is,
ahead. I'm gonna step out of the picture while you.
So yeah, that was my fanny pack. And true story, The Rock saw me with that, and he started wearing one, and then, that's where it came from. Actually, no. So that was Amy and I. We were supposed to have our honeymoon after we got married, but her dad got very ill and needed a quadruple bypass. So we actually canceled our honeymoon and cashed it in. And about 3 years later, in 1997, we got to go to New Zealand for 3 weeks. And I introduced her, obviously, to my family, my friends, and showed her where I grew up. This is in Auckland Airport, getting ready to head back to the States. I've got that look of, okay, I'm coming back here, I'm leaving, and I'm sad. And, it was tough. But what we didn't know was about 15 hours after this photo was taken, things would get kind of a little bit bad for us. We got back to America, and we had the same last names but different passports, and it threw up a red flag. And it turned out that I had incorrect documentation to actually be in America. So they put me in handcuffs and escorted me through the airport and held me in detention till they could fly me back to New Zealand. And they let Amy carry on back to Michigan by herself, which was not a fun time for her, but not saying it was a fun time for me either. But I tell you what, if you're ever in Los Angeles airport and you're in a hurry, wear handcuffs and have 3 armed guards, because it's like Moses parting the Red Sea. It was awesome. I mean, we just got straight through. People were taking photos of me, bro. I mean, there was me, there was a little Australian guy, and we're handcuffs, and he's embarrassed. And I'm all posing, because we're handcuffed in front so we could push our luggage, because apparently immigration, they don't push your luggage for you. And we were flanked. We had a guy on the left, a guy on the right, guy behind us, and they're all walking with their hands on their guns, escorting us through the airport. We got held in detention in downtown LA. They fed us McDonald's on the government jet, basically. And then I got put back on the plane. And so we're sitting
on back to New Zealand.
Yeah, but there's another part to the story too. Before we actually got to fly out, the plane that they put us back on had a mechanical problem. So we sat on it for about 3 hours. We got escorted on, and each one of us, the two of us that went on that plane, had our own personal guard who we were handcuffed, and they held our arms and then took our handcuffs off on the plane so we could sit down. So immediately people were like, okay, I don't want to be by this guy. And we sat there for about 3 hours, 3 or 4 hours. The plane just, no. And then my guard came back on. Well, both of them came on, and he said, hey, John, we got to get you off the plane. I said, oh, sweet. I got a reprieve, right? The governor's letting me go. He goes, nah, there's a mechanical problem. Plane's going to be delayed for 12 hours. But nobody on the plane knew this. And so pandemonium breaks out because people suddenly hear that they're stuck for 12 hours. And there's people jumping up, they're yelling, and I'm standing up. And I look over at the immigration guard, and he's got his gun out on me. So I was like, bro, put your gun away. And he's like, well, I'm afraid you're going to run. I'm like, where am I going to run to? We're on an airplane. And they got me off and back to detention. And then they put me back on the plane the next day, and people had moved from around.
Wow.
They'd switched seats with other people. And I had a lady sitting next to me with 2 little kids. And I noticed that the people who had been near me, they'd left. They'd switched seats. And she looks at me and says, can I ask you a question? And I said, yeah. She goes, are you a criminal? I was like, well, depends on your definition of criminal. But no, I was just refused entry to the state. She goes, oh, okay. And that was it. So I'm sitting there, and we take off, and the steward, it wasn't an S. It was just he was a steward. Asked me if I'd like anything to drink. I said, I'd love a beer. I've just gone through all of this crap. I'd like a beer. So he brought me a beer, and I might have got a bourbon with it. and then I got another bourbon and another beer, and I had a few more of those, and then they cut my alcohol off because they were afraid I was going to do something on the plane. I was like, I'm not doing anything. I'm not going anywhere at 30,000
That's
feet.
right. At 30,000 feet, yeah.
Yeah, so I was actually banned from the United States for 90 days.
Wow. So
any
you
sort
arrived
of-
back in New Zealand. You arrived
Yep.
back in New Zealand, and then you had to get all paperwork done and everything like that. And you were banned from coming back to the States for 90 days
Yep.
until you got all your paperwork.
Exactly.
And then you were allowed to come back over. So
Well, yeah, they told me it would be 9 months to a year, and most people
Wow.
give up.
wow.
But
Poor Amy.
yeah, it was not fun for her. I was working as a charter deckhand on a charter fishing boat. I worked as a painter. I mean, I was picking kiwi fruit. So
Wow, bro.
I worked, but yeah, it took me 121 days. I knew people back in the day,
Right.
and I had people pulling strings for me. And actually, when I had my interview with the American Consulate General, I sat down next to this guy, and he looks at me and he goes, "I don't know if you know who you know." And I said, "I'm pretty sure you're surprised who I know." And he said, "Look, I've been getting calls from people that are way above my station." And I'm like, "Yeah, doesn't surprise me." I traveled a little bit back home before I took off. So yeah, I
Well,
got to come back to the States, and
Well, lucky you, bro. You're back in the States. You're in your home now in Michigan, and you're with Amy and with your kids. So, and that was a
Well,
bit of an experience for you, my friend. Hey, that was a
you
bit
know,
of an experience.
it was. We can sort of laugh about it now.
Yeah,
One of the
yeah.
funniest things about it was I came back in. I had to carry this file with me. You weren't allowed to put it in your luggage. It was your immigration file, and I had to go
Yeah.
straight to immigration. So I walk in, and there's a guard there in the airport, looked just like Cheech Marin, had a big
Yeah.
mustache. And
Yeah.
he's like, "Welcome to America, senor." And I'm like, "Oh, shit, you guys took it over while I was gone?" And he didn't think it was funny. Well, I laughed.
Well, I'll tell you, man. Like you've been through some really, really, wow, a lot of experience. That's for sure. You know, and it's been a hell of a journey for you. But I also want to say too, Jonathan, that you've been very supportive when it comes to things like, like the earthquakes and the bushfire down in Australia. And I got a video that I want to play. Now, I took this video myself, but I do have one I want to show up here later. So I'm going to step out of the screen and I'll play it. So.
I'm going to drink as much beer as I can. All that man is so sorry. Okay. Pretty scared. And we'll let us know over there.
City TV, right? CTV.
So that was the video I took when City TV came up to Hemingway's, but I actually have the real video footage of that day, Jonathan. So I want to play it so you can see, because we're at the end of the line now, and I want to play this video so you can. I'm going to step out of the picture.
Toronto gathered at Hemingway's restaurant in Yorkville to show support for any Australians and their families impacted by the devastating bushfires.
New Zealand. Graham and I actually in Michigan. We drove up yesterday to Toronto, help support the bushfire relief fund. We got family and friends in Australia. It's definitely a worthy cause. I'm going to drink as much beer as I can to help.
That's the manager. Yeah, awesome.
Damon. I almost didn't make it to that too because apparently I got refused entry to Canada in 19.
Almost, eh?
Yeah, almost. I got pulled out again.
Almost again.
I've gotten in trouble in about 4 or 5 countries I've been to.
Well, Jonathan, I just want to say thank you very much for coming up to to Toronto from Michigan with Graham. You and Graham are supporting the Australian Bushfire Fund. So thank you guys. And you guys always come up for anything like that happens that really funds New Zealand earthquake and all that. You guys are always supportive. So we really do thank you for that. And I just want to thank you for coming on Maori Chair TV on Talking Voices. It's been a blast, man. Having a blast listening to you, talk about your journey and your experiences. So thanks very much for coming on, Jonathan.
Oh, thank you for having me, bro. It's been awesome.
Awesome, man. So I really do appreciate it. So Jonathan Carr, thank you very much for coming on to Maori Chair TV, my friend. It's been a blast. And folks, don't forget at 5 o'clock today, Jonathan, 5 o'clock today. I think your wife is a big fan of mine.
Oh, yeah.
She's always checking on the 5 Alive here, and to the 5 Alive that I do, she's always checking it out. So she'll be most probably one of the first on. So my friend, thanks very much for coming on to Maori Chair TV, Talking Voices. Jonathan, thank you. Kia ora.
Cheers, bro. Kia ora.